Hey everybody, Circus here. This video that you're about to watch is actually part two of a video series. We started it yesterday, meta-analysis for Rogue Decks part one. This is part two. We just thought one 30-minute video was a little long, so we decided to make it two parts. So this is part two, so go back and watch the first one, and I hope you enjoy them. All right, so next deck is one that I know that you're interested in. You've mentioned it a few times on stream, and that's Mayakashi.
Yeah.
What's this all about? I don't even know. I'm looking at this deck and it honestly looks like Shiranui.
Yeah, so Mayakashi is super interesting because it is a deck where the core cards do not have a win condition right now. So they have
What?
to borrow win conditions
What?
from other decks. Yeah. Yeah, it's like
What do you mean? Was
so
like a
the
3 card archetype? What is this?
So basically, Mayakashi is super consistent because if you look at Mayakashi Return, that lets them search any of their cards, anything. It doesn't have to be a Mayakashi monster. It can be any of their spells, traps, anything. They can
Okay.
search it, and then you can put it in the grave or your hand. So that's even a step further. So if you have a good Mayakashi card that's better in the grave than in your hand, there you go. That's even better. And then basically, if you're able to get to Daki, the Graceful Mayakashi, the fire one, plus Yuki, if you get both of those on the board, you summon 4 extra deck monsters. And to do that, you can either use Mayakashi Return to search either of those two. You can summon Solitaire to tribute it to bring out the Daki. So it's a lot of these cards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lead to your synchro monsters right away off the bat with
Well, I
like
think I
no
played
effort.
against this once. I just watched the guy synchro summon for like a
Yeah.
turn for like 10 minutes, and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
So essentially, you go Daki, you go Yuki, you synchro, and then the moment you bring out your synchro monster, Daki triggers, and she comes back to the field. And you keep doing this all the way until you summon your level 9 monster.
And what
The
happens then?
problem, the problem with this is all of their effects only trigger when they get summoned from the graveyard.
Okay.
So because you're summoning from the extra deck, they don't have an effect. So they're essentially vanilla monsters on the board. It's just a
Oh.
2900 vanilla monster. It doesn't do anything at
Oh,
all.
your boss monster doesn't do anything. And
Exactly,
then
and that's the problem.
you could just get hit by anything then, right? I mean,
Yeah, but now the interesting thing is, so say you have Yoko on the board, right? And they kill it. Well, that triggers Tengu from the grave. He's like, "Oh shit, you just killed Yoko." Well, I guess it actually says any level 9, I think, in the text, but which is basically Yoko. Um, I'm gonna trigger now. I'm gonna banish a card from the graveyard, and I'm gonna special summon myself from the graveyard. And then his effect activates, which is to destroy a back row card without targeting, which is really strong, right? Like
nice.
you
Yeah.
destroy without targeting, you blow up. And Yoko's effect is without targeting, destroy a monster. Amazing effect. But again, having Yoko be the because here's the thing: there is another Mayakashi, a level 11 Mayakashi, which it would just be the same exact thing. Yoko comes out, Daki comes out, you synchro again to level 11. But the level 11 includes the word links in its text, so we
Oh,
can't
can't
get it
have it.
until
Can't
yeah.
use it.
So
Yeah.
if we could just have it where Yoko could be in the grave and you could special summon it, it would be so much better because getting a monster pop over a back row pop is so much better at the end of the day.
Right. So
In
we
this
haven't
meta.
seen this in a tournament at all, have we?
Um, Not in our tournaments. People just refuse to play them. We see it in Swiss from time to time. Actually, yesterday we had a Vindred Mayakashi,
Okay.
which was amazing when it popped off, but it bricked like twice and just lost.
Well,
So
it's one of those decks. It's like, oh, when it pops off, it's amazing, but it
yeah,
only does that one
yeah.
out of 10
Essentially,
matches.
yeah. You put two archetypes that are known for bricking together, and that's just what you're gonna get.
What do you expect? But
What do you expect out of that? It,
what's interesting about this to you? Because you're like, I'm gonna do this.
So what's
Why?
super interesting about the deck is, for example, if you get through your combos and you're able to bring out a Sun Saga, which is super easy with this deck, if you're able to get that, so because every time you summon the blue girl, the Yuki,
Yeah.
you can send a card from your deck to the graveyard, a zombie. So you send the Ninetail Fox, you send the level 2 tuner, you have Solitaire in there. You're able to go into Sun Saga, and Sun Saga can because you because
Yeah. Okay.
2 cards can make your 4 extra deck monsters. Sun Saga comes out, he sends 4 back, and then you pop 4 of your opponent's monsters
Okay. I
or
was,
cards in general. Just pop everything. Boop,
and
it's
it's
just gone.
non-targeting, right?
It's non-targeting, and then you have Sun Saga on the board.
How
Um,
easy is it to do that though?
Extremely easy.
Consistent?
Extremely easy.
Consistent?
Yeah, extremely consistent. The only problem is actually making sure that your opponent has nothing to respond to that.
Oh,
So
okay.
like if your Sun Saga gets floodgated, that's it. If you're let's say you're gonna start, turn two, you've got your combo, you're ready to pop off. You have everything you could ever want. You make it to like the level 5, the level 3 synchro, and then you get floodgated. You lose. There's no comeback, because even if you're able to play again, well, there's not enough extra deck space to do anything. You can't play 2 level 3s, for example. You don't have
Oh,
the space
right,
to do
right.
that. So if I can't get into my level 3, I can't get into my level 5, I can't get into my level 7, I can't get into my level 9. So if you disrupt any one of these synchros, it disrupts all of the synchros.
So it's
Um,
it's like a house of cards. You can build it up, but if it gets knocked down,
Exactly. It's super fragile. If you're at
okay,
any point interrupted, everything dies. It's not just like Shiranui where, okay, well, I've flipped your tuner down. I'm going to bring out another tuner, or I'm going to use the
right,
tuner effect
right.
in the graveyard, or I'm going to ballista squad, then use the tuner. You just lose everything if one thing gets interrupted.
So you
And
got
you
one
can't do anything
shot to
about
do
that.
this. You got one shot to do it, and if
You got
you
one
miss it,
shot. And if it doesn't work out, you're just not going to be able to do
okay,
much
I'm
at
starting
that
to see
point.
why we haven't seen this deck very
Yeah.
much.
So and it could, and honestly, if they just like gave us 2-3 more extra deck slots, this deck would actually be really good.
Okay,
um but you're not going to see that. Plus it doesn't help that we're in a back row heavy meta,
right.
and to play all these cards, because essentially you have to play Mayakashi with something. If not, Shiranui I've seen invoke Mayakashi be okay.
Yeah.
But you basically you need to borrow someone's win condition, because
Okay.
you can do what you do consistently, but without and then we don't have like a lot of generic zombie support that lets them summon from the grave really easily too. That's the other thing. So this is kind of more like a TCG thing where it's like, well, they have all these zombie options, so they're fine. They don't give a shit. But here it's like, well, I don't have those options, so I bring out all my monsters, and then what do I do? I don't have a win condition. I need to borrow someone's win condition. And
Right.
sure, it works very well. Like it's like seamless. They feel like Mayakashi cards when you play them in Mayakashi. It feels very different from when you're playing Shiranui.
Okay.
So that's super cool. This build specifically, the one skill shot used, has been the most interesting so far, because with the glow up bloom being super big brain and being able to do things like go from the level 5 the spider guy into the level 7 Shiranui
Hmm.
instead of the level 7 Tengu, has been really huge, because the level 7 Shiranui can banish any of these synchro monsters and get, like, because whenever you bring the I don't know if you play this much Shiranui, but when you bring out the level 7 synchro, it's
Right.
like you don't have that many synchros to banish to get the full effect. Usually just destroy back row. Not
Right.
the case here. You have all the synchro
Oh,
monsters
because you can
on the
start
board.
popping
You can
monsters
start
in it.
popping, like, yeah, and it doesn't target. So you're like crazy popping everything on the
Okay.
board. So it's just sad because there's so much potential. It's one of those decks where it's like one card away from just being a tier 0 deck, I feel like.
One
You know,
card
if
away and 3 extra deck slots. So.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but it's like it's when you think of a deck like Six Samurai and they summon out Shien, you're like, oh god, I have to play around Shien. But here it's like, oh, you've summoned out Yoko, I have to play around a 2900 beater. Okay, sure.
Right. No problem.
Yeah, no, that's no problem with me. And even if you kill it, okay, you get to pop a back row. If it was something like the effects of Tengu and Yoko were flipped, where Tengu popped a monster and Yoko popped a back row, it would be infinitely better, because it's like, okay, well, even if you kill the boss monster, it's going to summon another monster that's now going to pop a monster on the board.
Which would be
That'd be
huge.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just little things that don't really work out, and we'll have to see what further support we'll get for it, because it does feel like one of those decks that can be good, but Konami's just going to forget about that they released in the game.
Yeah, there's so many of those decks. It's not even
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
All right, moving on. This is a deck I've been playing a lot of just because I had the cards when the new structure deck came out. So that's the new. We're calling it my favorite Neos or whatever you want to call it. It's just the new version of Neos, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's a lot of fun. You
Yeah.
got to have both structure decks to play it, but then it doesn't hurt to have Stratos and maybe a Phoenix Chain or two. Um, but what do you think of this deck?
Yeah, it's a super interesting deck, because it's probably the most cost efficient deck that actually wins things in tournaments these days. A lot of decks, when you look at them, they all have high cost to win tournaments. That's just the nature of selection box metas that we're currently
Right.
in. This deck is super interesting because it kind of does what Black Wings does, but a little bit worse, where they're just going to try and turbo out Necro Valley as soon as possible. And like I said
Right.
earlier, we are in a super back row banish graveyard meta. So you take one of those out, the graveyard, against some of these decks, for example, Crystron's, Shiranui, it gets so much harder to play against anything at that point if Necro Valley is on the board. The only problem is the consistency with
Oh,
this
that's
deck.
I was just about to hammer that because I don't know how many times because it's only got what 5 starters. You got your Keeper of Dragon Magic and you got your Neos
Yeah.
Fusion.
Well, it's not even that's not even like what's a Neos on his own do in today's meta?
Right.
He's not really a starter anymore like he used to be in the past where you bring out Neos. Well, you brought out Neos, but you also have a really good card in the grave like Bacon Saver. You have protection for the Neos, you have back row to back the Neos up. That's how it used to work. But these days it's
That's not
about bringing
enough.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not enough.
It's just not enough.
That's not considered a starter anymore. You've got to have
Well, that
Neos, and then he's got to be equipped
my
with my
favorite
favorite
hero.
hero,
Yeah.
or you have to have a mass change in the back just in case they take care of your Neos or something along those lines.
My thing is you so you don't get my favorite hero. You get Mash Change. You set that Cosmic Cyclone first card they play, and it's like okay, I guess that's
Yeah,
gone. And I didn't
it's
have a
rough
chance.
for
Or
sure.
you can try and use it, but then it's like, well, there goes all my protection, and now the Koga's out there by himself. They summon 3 monsters. You're dead
Right,
because he
right.
can only
Yeah.
use his effect once, and you
Yeah,
know,
essentially. And that's why like, against a deck that doesn't use the graveyard effectively, he can't do too crazy much at that point. You basically just have a big beater. And if you have Necro Valley, you can't even use the Neos Fusion in your grave anymore, so you really only have a big
right.
beater. He's not even that big anymore.
You throw a Bacon Saver, you throw AD Changer, you throw your Neos Fusion all into the grave, and then you bring out Necro Valley.
Yeah.
What does that do?
Yeah. So basically, whenever you see them do well, it's usually a graveyard heavy. Probably a lot of Shiranui were in the
Right,
tournament,
right.
and they were able to get really lucky with because in reality, and it's even worse. Probably the worst thing that happened to you is your field spell gets cosmic. Then it's really
Right.
like, well, now what do I do? I have to wait until a whole nother turn just to use the favorite hero effect to get the Necro Valley, and if that gets cosmic, then I'm really up shit creek because I can't even use. It's a total dead card. It's equipped and it does nothing at that point.
What kills
Which
me
is
is the consistency of the opening hand because you'll get Stratos, favorite hero, mass change, Vanilla Neos. And you're like,
yeah.
what
And
do
that
I
does
do here?
nothing.
What?
Yeah, you
What?
can't do anything with
Okay,
that.
well I'll summon the
Oh
Stratos,
god.
search the alias, and then die. You
Yeah,
know,
pretty much. Yeah.
that's the
So it's a really cost efficient deck, and I actually think it's a deck that if you're a new tournament goer, you're brand new to the game. People always say, "Oh, pick up Shiranui and then slowly work on your staples." And if you want to just run into tournaments as soon as possible to get that tournament experience, this is definitely the deck that I would actually choose to
yeah.
go
'Cause I
about. It's super cheap.
think it's under $30.
Oh, easily. And then,
Yeah.
obviously, like having things like Necro Valley is nice and all, but you could literally just go for broke for Necro Valley, and then the rest you just purchase with real life money, and then you're good. Like
Right. Yeah.
you're solid at that
Well,
point.
especially
Especially things like mass change being in the structure deck. That's ridiculous. That's so good.
and if you're watching this video when we record it, not a month or two from now, the UR sale's going on, and I did it, and I got a damn Necro Valley, and I already have
Oh, there
four
you
of them.
go.
I already have
Oh,
four,
right,
so it
never mind.
sucks.
Yeah, that's not that great
But
then.
yeah, anytime you got the UR sale going on, that's pretty good. But
Yeah.
overall, this deck's not bad. On the ladder, I think it sucks just because it's
Yeah.
not good in a best of one.
Exactly, and especially on ladder, you're gonna see again. We said a diversity of decks. So unless you run into a ladder that's full of graveyard based decks, which you probably won't see unless you're playing at the highest level of Casey Cup, for example,
Right.
and that's like once every couple of months. You're not, your strategy of turbo out Necro Valley isn't as powerful anymore.
Right.
So it's just maybe there's a version where you play more of a heavy Koga style. But even then, that's just you're if one floodgate, one anything, treacherous trapple, anything would just take care of you at that point.
I mean, you can go off with this deck. Don't get me wrong, but you're gonna go like 6-4. You're gonna go 7-3.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It's hard to get those
Yeah.
streaks. That's what I'm running
Yeah.
into. You go 4-1, 3-2. So it's just hard to climb with once you get to a certain
Yeah.
point with it.
Overall, it's either It's either the best of the rogue decks or the second best of the rogue decks, I would say, right now.
Okay.
Actually, no, I take that back. I forgot Yosenju. It's either the second best or the third best of the rogue decks. That's where I'd kind of place it in here. Probably third. I'd probably do Yosenju's the best one, followed by Goki, followed by this. Goki and this is kind of interchangeable. They're both just depends on what your opening hand is.
Okay.
And Mayakashi just chilling on its own.
All right. Well, I hope you guys liked this little roundup that we did. I know I enjoyed it. It's always fun talking with Ryi about decks. I just want to point out we are now affiliated with GamerSub, so make sure to check that out. We got the link down below for that. You get a cool little discount on it. And make sure to do the like, comment, subscribe, Twitch, Twitter, Discord. Am I forgetting anything, Ryi? I don't think so.
I think that's everything.
All right. Oh, and play in our tournaments. They're always free. Join.
That's right.
Yep. All the links are down below and do all that stuff. So we'll see you next time. I'm Circus. That's
Bye,
right.
chat.
See ya.